Thanks for stopping by Big Top Gaming. My name's Brian.
And I'm Ethan.
And we have a Warmachine battle report for you. I almost forgot what it was I needed to say because it's been that long since we've filmed one of these.
It's been a few weeks.
So to get back to Warmachine in what feels like months now, although it's probably shorter than that, it's just that time is working weird for me these days. I decided to play Protectorate. So for you, those of you who have kept up with the channel in the past, we never had Protectorate on the channel for the longest time because I didn't own it, and to be honest, I have a love-hate relationship with the faction, and I decided that that's what I was going to play this time. I know Ethan played a bunch of Protectorate recently in our Big Top Brawl bracket series. I even forgot what it was called, the BTGBB.
Something like that.
So many BBs. So you want to say you played Protectorate, but you actually just played Harbinger.
I played Harby and then like a couple turns of Fiora.
Yeah, so I decided that I'm going to do something a little different with Protectorate. We're playing an Exemplar Interdiction with Grand Exemplar Kreoss, or Krios 2. His battle group has Fire of Salvation and a Templar, and then we have Severius 0 with the Blessing of Vengeance. And then when we get to the rest of the list, we've got a couple solos with High Exemplar Gravus, 2 Vassals of Menoth, 2 Vassal Mechanics, 1 Wrack, and then for the rest of the list for units, we've got Exemplar Cinerators with their UA, Exemplar Vengers, and then the Knights Exemplar with their unit attachment. So this is like kind of like a buffet style of the Crusaders of Sul list of old, but it's not really spamming anything. It's just got a bunch of cool stuff that's gonna like do neat things, and Krios is kind of like he has a ridiculously cool feat for them. So let's see what Ethan's playing today.
So this week I'm playing some Convergence of Cyrus, and I'm playing a caster I've wanted to touch for a long time. It's just been hard when there's so many other options in Convergence, and I'm talking about Forgemaster Syntherion. He took a couple hits in the Mark III transition. He went through Sid, and then arguably his feat got worse to some people. It was a lateral change. In my opinion, it's better in some situations, but then like it's just a weird changes. So this week I'm playing in Clockwork Legion because that's the Jack theme, which feels weird. I got a Prime Axiom, 4 Negators, a free Corollary, a free Diffuser, 3 Dispersion Optifexes.
Algorithmic Dispersion Optifex.
ADOs. I have 3 ADOs just for arcing Magnetic Hold. I got a Frustum Locus, and then I got Gaspy 4 with a Scavenger. And the plan is between Gaspy's Bloodthirst, Magnetic Hold giving plus 2 inches, and a Diffuser plus 2 inches, I have a plus 6 inch threat extender, but it gets a little weird just keeping everything in Syntherian's control range for synergy, but then the feat can give a dual attack to the Prime Axiom and the Assimilator, so they can do some weird stuff with charging and still shooting. So like I just wanted to give Syntherian a shot. Been talking with some people about him, and I want to like him, and I want to play him.
Yeah, and the other thing that's weird about having like a plus 6 inch threat essentially in Convergence is that your induction gets weird.
Yeah, that's why also I took 3 ADOs just for that extra range.
So we get to start out the game with myself winning the roll with a mighty 5. No rerolls, no plus ones. We're just playing straight up Warmachine with no modifiers.
It's been a long time since we played themes that don't have modifiers, or we don't have like Anastasia or something.
Exactly, right? So for some of you who don't pay attention to CID, this scenario is going to look a little screwball-y. So week 3 CID, I believe the 2021 Steamroller CID is closed.
Yeah, it's closed and coming out on the 24th.
So we decided to try and play Split Decision, which just has the one big circle zone at the top of the screen, 2 flags, and then 2 objectives represented by our lovely crippled system proxy bases of Ye Old. I'm pretty sure you can still get them on Muson Minis. It's just that I got these handed to me a long time ago, probably in Mark II at a tournament. So I decided to get them out for some good old throwback nostalgia, mostly because my other objectives have been packed up. So you can see the deployment for me is kind of wonky because this list doesn't really have great access to Pathfinder unless you touch me first. Like, the other thing about packing up and getting my stuff moved to another location is that a lot of my Knights Exemplar are nowhere to be found. So I'm using some errants and some other things in here to proxy like the UA, but I think other than that, my list is fine. But I've decided to put the Vengers on the top of the screen because they can get around that pool of water pretty easily. And then the Knight Errants, or the Knight Exemplars, sorry, they're going to just run straight through the water. They're going to be a little bit late to the show, but it's not really a big deal. Now, if I were a smart person who played Protectorate more often, I would have recognized that Gravus has Desperate Pace and probably would have helped him out a little bit. Also, another thing worth noting is that mount, or the hill, may he rest in pieces, is actually tall grass.
Yeah, we're trying out one terrain piece of the new stuff. Only one. So going into my bottom of one, I chose my side just to give Brian the obstruction.
How dare you?
My brother's name is Ryan, so like it counts. So I put Gatsby towards the top. That way I can connect the obstruction and the force with clouds, which I'm pre-measuring now, because they are so far away from the objective, which I took magic weapons. What did you take?
I took the concealment, and I definitely told you before.
Yeah, we'll talk about that at the end. But I put Gatsby on top to try and cloud wall up there, since the objective is way down on the bottom, so I don't really have to worry about it too much. We couldn't find a Corollary because that's packed up, so I'm using a Galvanizer. So the Corollary is going first. I'm just making sure I'm going to be behind the cloud wall so I can't get charged, and inducting around. The plan is just to get up the board. I had to pre-measure the Prime Axiom because I wanted to play him tighter down towards the objective, but couldn't physically run past the objective and flag turn one, even going second with the extra deployment, so he had to be up above the flag there just to be able to get over it. And I'm using that tall grass advantage of rough terrain for small and medium bases where I know Blessing can't get to me. And then there you see the Prime Axiom hugging, and I just have ADOs spread out through my entire lines just so I can get some sweet 9-inch induction range just to jump focus around everywhere. And I believe Syntherion allocated one focus out there just so stuff could jump around. And I walked up, I put up Synergy, I put up Hot Shot on the Assimilator for some sweet ground pounder action, and then I believe I might have empowered another focus to the Corollary just to fill it up for next turn. And then, yeah, it's just basic turn one convergence stuff of figuring out the triangles of induction and where your Corollary has to end up so that way focus jumps back to it at the last activation.
And with that objective so far from the other end, even if I wanted to take Eyeless Sight, the places with the way the tree or the forest and the obstruction was positioned, there really wasn't any way I could get it anywhere meaningful.
Yeah,
you've got that upper part pretty much on lockdown in terms of line of sight.
Mm-hmm. I can set the lines of engagement, but I got to be wary about Brian's feet because I know, like when Krios feats, everything dies. So it's just kind of going up, putting up the clouds. Loads up my Locus.
And you did forget to put your Servitor down. But
yep, because I always forget it's in maintenance phase now.
So going into the top of two for me, things are a little rough. Like I wish, not that I wish, but like Ethan did a good job of positioning gas before by the forest, because my Vengers have the ability to connect with Ethan really early on, and the rest of my army is kind of like lagging behind as a cleanup crew. But now with Ethan having put out those AoEs, it's not really easy for me to try and just get there. Like, I can't charge you, and you're too far away for me to just walk and punch because I only have an 8.5-inch threat with those Vengers. So what I'm trying to do now is just kind of flipping through Krios' stuff, because like this will be the first time in the entirety of forever I've played as Krios 2, and I've only played against him maybe once in my entire life, and that was back in Mark II when you just had like 5 million Knights Exemplar. So I decide that we've talked about Krios like leading up to this, and he is kind of like, he feels like he's kind of still a Doom Reaver type caster, where it's just present my stuff and hope that it survives, and then whatever's left over, you try to do the extra work. Now, I don't get to quite do the same thing because I don't have the threat saturation or the threat width of a Doom Reaver list, and that I don't have like 36 of these things on the table. I was just checking in with Ethan on the objective to see if Eyeless Sight was something that magic weapons was something that he'd be able to get, because I do have the choir that can passage my jacks, and with that up there, it's not really worth doing. So the Cinerators have Inviolable Resolve, and they are shield walled and mini-feated so that they could get into the position that they're in. My Vengers are kind of shuffling around a little bit just to try and like make it so that Ethan can't ground pounder me, but I also want to protect my Templar because that Jack is extremely dangerous with Battle and Krios' feet, so I want to keep him around as long as possible, and if Ethan has to chew through 2 Vengers to get there, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for him to actually do that, but with ground pounder, it's really like it's iffy that that the Vengers will be able to survive that with Hotshot and then be able to keep that Templar up and at him. At least maybe makes it so that his heavy isn't coming into my heavy. And with all these Exemplar or Knights Exemplar hanging up behind the Templar, if Gaspy 4 comes up to do it, then there's a good chance that those Knights Exemplar are going to go ahead and tear him apart anyways. So I have Gravus and Krios sitting behind the obstruction just to make sure that they're both safe from the Prime Axiom, and that I can broadcast Brother's Keeper and the Tough Bubble for Krios with that massive 10-inch command. Sacrosanct, I believe, is something that I put up this turn just to de-incentivize Gaspy from coming up and screwing around with my stuff again. I also did put up Battle Charge this turn with Krios to make sure that my Jacks had some ways to kind of catch Ethan off guard a little bit if he wasn't thinking about how he was unpacking into me. And on this bottom part of the table, it's just moving the support up where it needs to go, getting but I guess before I start moving support, we're going with Severius 0, and we're arc noding through Blessing of Vengeance into the front facing Negator and Negator. So I cast an Immolate through, and I did want to boost it just to make sure that I was going to hit this one, and mostly because like the Blessing of Vengeance first thing is essentially +3 on everything with or +3 for damage with Sevi 0. So I ended up blowing up the damage roll and doing something like 16 points of damage to that Negator, and left it on 2 boxes after the second Immolate came in. I didn't quite roll what I needed to take it out. With Ethan being able to auto repair, that's kind of a moot point for me. I really was hoping to grab this with just Severius to get him down a Jack early right away, but unfortunately it just couldn't work for him. The rest is just trying to figure out how to position my models to make sure that the tow cables don't pull the things that I really care about in there, and making sure Severius stays safe behind the Cinerators. And then I put a Mechanic on the flag, because if you don't start scoring that right away, any points your opponent can get ahead of you on this scenario could put you in a bad position if things go bad.
It's been a while since I played in the Sevi 0, let alone Sevi 0 with an Arc Node, so I always forget how good his spellcasting is, especially when you bring his character. So like, I was not expecting him to rock my Negator almost off the table with just spells from a junior.
It is like, a lot of people will just bring Sevi 0 for the Eye of Menoth ability, which of course is great. He's a requisition option in most of the theme forces he can go into, but they might put like a Purifier on him or something because it can do melee work and all that. But getting the Blessing of Vengeance in this list for just, I think, 13 points to get that massive nuke out there from just a little requisition option, I feel like is extremely potent and powerful. And then you get a shield guard on top of it and set defense. Like, the stats for the Blessing are just really great for Sevi as a package in a list that has no real threat projection.
No, it's a good package. So this turn you can see, like, I'm going deep in the tank. Like, I'm debating feeding this turn, but I am not sure yet. So I'd opt to go with the Frustum first, and I'm like, well, easy thing first. I'm just going to dispel Inviolable Resolve.
And that is something that I forgot that the Frustum has, because you never shoot with the damn thing.
I just always forget it has Dispel.
And then I lamented myself for not putting the Blessing of Vengeance by them to make sure that I could shield guard that off, but whatever.
And then I boost damage because I know I'm going to start killing Cinerators this turn. I know they have Vengeance, but I need to start clearing out the Weapon Masters on that side of the board if I want to have a chance of the Prime Axiom existing. past this next turn. And then there I'm just like, well, if Gaspy can put down his 2 clouds again, I can keep my army safe behind it, because I'm like, if I throw out a ground pounder, I'd like to not catch the
Knights Exemplar,
the
because
Knights
you don't want
Exemplar.
to battle-driven both the units.
Yep. So I'm like, okay, if I can catch the 3 knights, or the 3 ponies and the jack, like, that's good enough for me. I can't aim, so I'm only rat 5 with the jack, because you can't get the aim bonus for ground pounders. But if I can shift 3 focus over to him, I can boost 3 of the hits and then duct around. So there, the Corollary is going, just power transfers 2 over to the Assimilator, because now I'm like, well, I'm going to feat this turn, so if I feat, he's going to get an extra focus anyway when he activates, so there's no point giving him 3 focus, because that's where it gets weird with the feat. But I'll talk about Syntherion after the game and my thoughts on his reworked feat.
Yeah, just to before you get too far off of it, that whole Knights Exemplar not being in the middle of those Vengers was a massive misplay on my part. You had seen that I was trying to dodge around the ground pounder business for a little while, and then when I moved my Vengers in the final spot, I said, screw it, I'm going to eat the ground pounder. I need to keep the jack safe. There's no reason why I shouldn't have just surrendered that Knights Exemplar and made it so that if you wanted to go after the Vengers, you had to ground pound him too.
Yeah, but without Vengeance, if I just plop the clouds down again, they're not going to threaten that far. And I'm hoping the 2 Negators with Synergy can take down the Jack, even though it is like armor 21.
Yeah, 19 base, 21 with the shield.
And since Gaspy walked turn 1, the servitors didn't get to run into position. So, like, I'm not really close enough for them to walk and get Dark Shroud if Gaspy wants to put up the clouds again. So that's where it gets weird, and I wished I'd gotten the first turn, because then Gaspy could have ran, and I could have got my forces up and started shooting from top of 2. So there, I'm doing my ground pounder. I boost the hit on 3 of the ponies, and then hot shot damage on the jack. That's okay. I believe I take out 1 grid.
And I think 1 Venger Tuft.
Yep.
And no knockdown.
1 Venger Tuft with no knockdown from Brother's Keeper, and Tuft from, what's his face? Krios. And then the other one I did not kill, just from flat boosted damage. So I'd hoped to kill 3 of them without proccing, like having battle-driven armor up on them, because that's the advantage of Ground Pounder, but that's just not how it worked. And then I inducted my focus to the Negator right there, which is charging in. So he's got 3 focus, and then he charges in.
And he's punching the Venger right now.
Yep, because that's the one where I don't think I did barely any damage, so I needed the charge bonus with the battle-driven now. So now I'm taking my second attack into the Templar. I'm debating boosting damage, but I'm like, it's better just to go for more attacks. But I do opt to boost, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was because you crit, so
Yep.
you got the amputate off and you wanted to make it work, but you didn't break armor.
Yep, I got crit amputate, and I was like, do I want to boost? And I was like, yep, because I'm POW 10 at dice minus 10. So I boosted and rolled a 7, so I didn't even get to use crit amputate.
Yeah, so the Templar's sitting pretty healthy now, even though with that crit amputate, with him having a lot of boxes hanging around, it could have done a lot of work.
Mm-hmm. And here's where I run the Scavenger to get Dark Shroud. It still wouldn't have let me crack armor on that one, but I was like, I'm not going to risk not cracking armor with the second one. And the way that the jacks were positioned, I had to transfer over to the second Negator up there just to get that one full, because it wasn't in range to give to the Prime Axiom. And you can't see the Diffuser, but it's behind the Prime Axiom. Aim shoots the middle Incinerator just to get Beacon out there so I can charge for free. So now I'm in a conundrum of I'd like to get Synergy up higher before sending in the second Negator, just to get up to like POW 13 with full Synergy and then POW 15 with Dark Shroud. But because of the way the focus is and the way my jacks are so spread out, I needed to go next with the Negator, so he's only a POW 11 flank because nothing else is activated, and I needed the Prime Axiom to be full on focus. I move up an ADO, so now this one is in range to jump back to the Prime Axiom, so he charges because the feat does not allow charging for free. And then I believe got 4 dice damage on this one thanks to flank, so I was able to take out a grid. Second attack, I'm opting whether to boost. I decide going for 3 dice damage is better than boosting for an extra dice, because I'm essentially getting 4 dice on one attack, but I'm losing 3 dice from another attack that I could just buy.
Yep, and I think system-wise, the movement on the Templar has gone out, but you can start to see that some of your damage rolls are starting to drop off a little bit.
Yep, and I'm hoping, like, the more attacks, like, if I can get a crit, like, I'm rolling okay for damage.
Then when all was said and done, I've still got 8 boxes left in all my important systems.
Yep, so, like, that's unfortunate. But there's not much I can do over there. Like, I couldn't get synergy up higher because of the way, like, I need the negators on the bottom to be full focus to do work into the jacks over there or the Cinerators. And I'm just moving my ADO up to keep the focus train going. And now here I have a plan. The Prime Axiom is charging the middle Cinerator for free thanks to Beacon.
Yep.
Just swings with the right fist, smashes it. Auto tough check because I'm at 2 synergy right now, so it's a POW 23.
Yeah, so 3 dice is auto dead.
Just making sure how many I get. I only don't get the back one just because of the way the triangle works. So I'm punching now the one directly in front of me to try and clear a gap so I can shoot Sevi. Because Sevi is naked, and I'm like, if I punch this guy, I can put 5 Acela Spikers into Sevi and try and rip him off. And then your Cinerator toughs.
Yep. Thankfully for me, that 33% chance to save Sevi's life went off, because I didn't see. I totally forgot about the feat being able to let you charge and then Acela Spiker out of it. So that was really lucky on my part.
Yep. And now I'm here. I'm just rolling Acela Spikers. I'm hoping to hit and break a dice minus 10 Acela Spiker on 2 dice, like for the first ones, because I don't want to boost damage, because I need those boosts on Sevi or to punch Cinerators, because like if I boost any of these Acela Spikers and say you tough, that's a wasted attack that I'm not going to get on a Cinerator.
Yeah, wasted shot, wasted focus, yeah.
Yep, so I believe here all of my Acela Spikers didn't do anything, so I'm shooting a tow cable into them.
And this is the tow cable that breaks my heart.
Yep, so right tow cable went into that Cinerator. I was hoping, because I didn't see, like, you might see that line there. I was hoping there was a line where I could shoot Sevi and drag him in the melee and bop him. So that's why I was using the tow cable last. But I used the left one on Blessing. I boost the hit this one just to make it hit. And then I rock him with a POW 22 at dice plus 3.
Yeah, he gets left on very few boxes. I think he this was a big one, but you're going to keep punching him.
Here I'm punching Cinerators because I'm more scared of them, and it's basically like if I don't roll snakes, that one, you tough. So I'm checking to see if a Negator can charge in there with flight charging over my model, and I can fit one. So now I'm like, okay, I'll buy an attack into the back one. I hit. And this one is the officer who does not tough. So I'm like, okay, I've killed half the Cinerators. Like, maybe this won't be so bad.
Yeah, and you'll notice that I'm stacking a ton of souls on Gravus. At this point in the game, I thought he could hold 5 souls, but now I recognize he can only hold 3.
And the Negator I've been loading up is charging, inducting to the other Negator, so he's charging Blessing. Blessing defensive strikes and roll Snake Eyes.
Yeah, that was a bummer. This was where you were thankful that you didn't put in your 4-box Negator.
Yep.
Because that would have been just perfect to have the Blessing just rocket off the table for a defensive strike.
So I'm going in, no flank. I'm in synergy range, so I'm POW 13, but I'm still dice minus 6 because of your stupid shield.
Yep.
And I'm doing work. Comes down to my last attack. Hits, no crit. And I don't kill him.
Yeah, you leave him on one box. Exactly.
Yep, 1 box. I have no attacks left over there, and I'm not going to waste a Negator's activation on a 1-box dude, because I'm like, I need to kill one of these Cinerators that's on 1 box. Otherwise, he's going to get Avenged attacks, and he's going to get 2 POW 12 Weapon Master attacks, thanks to I. So I charge over, 1-shot him, Repo 3 on him.
Yep, and that charge definitely looked a little screwball-y because of Fly. Do you want to go through that just in case someone sees it and doesn't?
No.
Fine.
Now, Flying lets you ignore intervening models when declaring a charge, so I could see over my Prime Axiom, and I could see his model. I just need the fit in between the wall and there. And at mat 10, or mat 9, I just punch him.
So Ethan had quite a bit of work to do. There's a lot to think about when you look at unpacking a convergence list, especially on a scenario like this where there's these real far out split scoring opportunities. You want to try and make sure that you can get those not synergy chains, the induction chains going well, and you definitely had to do things in a very specific order to get that to happen. So it took you a little while to kind of unpack that, and I do believe what you spent 15 focus just on jacks that turn.
Every single jack I had went through 3. Well, I mean, the Assimilator had 3.
Oh, yeah,
all
I
4
forgot
Negators
those two.
went through 3. The Prime Axiom went through 3, so that's 6. The Corollary inducted 3, so that's 18 plus 21. The Diffuser boosted the shot. So yeah, I inducted 22 focus that turn.
Yep, that's beefy. So I could try and start using the clock advantage or the clock differential to my advantage, but what I'm going to try and do here is utilize Sevi's feat and all these extra attacks that I'm getting out of Vengeance and Righteous Vengeance from the Fire of Salvation to try and really delete this front line of jacks that's coming into me to really put the pressure on Ethan, because not only will he have the time pressure, but the attrition pressure is going to be there too, and he'll have fewer things to do those with. So the big things for me to do this turn are allocate to the Fire of Salvation and the Templar. So those two have got 2 focus on them now, and then each vassal that's been tagging around with them is going to go ahead and empower them. And I think at this point I had to go back and recognize when the feat actually worked for Krios, because like sometimes when you get these extra attack feats, they're like, you make the attack now. Like I think Rahira does that where they attack when she feats, but with Krios they just get that extra attack during their activation. So I had to go ahead and get Severius, or not Severius, I had to get Krios to go first so we could get the feat out there so that everyone could go ahead and do their business with the auto hitting and extra attack. So I think that part is done now, and he's still just kind of hanging out behind the rock, just being nice and safe. And then I checked to see if my choir on the top of the screen can get into the Templar, and they just barely have a small sliver where they can fit and get within 3 inches. So now both of my warjacks are battled, and that's going to help me make sure that I can get a lot of work done under feet as well, because I don't have to worry about spending anything to boost to hit. I just am going to get it. So I opt to activate the Fire of Salvation next, and with Divine Inspiration from Krios as his bond, and a POW 21 fist with, or 21 giggle stick with Severius 0 and battle going on, we're dice +1 on the Prime Axiom.
Yep.
And
you just rip it off the table.
Exactly, just with him on that. And the thing that got him was not just the Vengeance attacks, because those Cinerators each did 4 damage on their Vengeance, but then we have Righteous Vengeance from the Fire of Salvation, and then the feat attack was the thing that ended up putting the Prime Axiom down. So that allows these Exemplar Cinerators to charge off and both go into the 2 Negators. And I jigger with them a little bit just to make sure that they're within 10 inches of Sev-Zero's Eye of Menoth. So the first one goes in and rips the Negator off the table that only had a couple boxes. The second Exemplar doesn't quite get the Negator in the first shot, but takes him off the table in the second attack. So that's just...
The second attack left him on 2 boxes.
I'm sorry. So he's still up and at him. I was hoping that... yeah, there we go. So that was... the Blessing of Vengeance, I think, because the Blessing auto hits even though it's only got 1 box left. It just needed to do like a couple damage to it, and based on dice, it would have been fine. It was fine no matter what. So the Negator's gone. So now with just 1 heavy and the 2 medium base infantry and 1 jack on 1 wound, I've collapsed almost that entire bottom side of the table.
Yeah, I was not expecting that. I forgot about Righteous Vengeance, and then you just literally deleted half the table.
Fire of Salvation can pick up Colossals with the feat and battle and Sub-Zero. Like, he's just a really beefy jack that I don't think people give a whole lot of respect to, because he is Krios' jack and you just don't see him that often. So now the Templar's activating, and his job is to try and clear some of these light warjacks that are on the bottom of the screen, or the top of the screen, because then that'll allow the rest of my Exemplars to kind of come around and just try and shield him up again. So he cleaves through the Scavenger in one hit, I believe.
It took him his fist.
Sorry, the fist and the chain. We get the Negator with a couple attacks, and then I think we have one more to go into the last Negator, and we don't quite get him, but he's really low. So I have one Knight's Exemplar that can actually make a charge on him, and the rest are real stuck behind the Vengers, but that's just the order of activations issue that I'm in over here. So he charges in, auto hits, and takes it off the table. The Vengers are positioning for next turn. And then, the Templar's just kind of sitting there hanging out because he's done his job, Like, I still have so many things in back. The problem with my back positioning is that I've left Ethan with an extremely juicy ground pounder target, so I want to make sure that wherever Gravus goes, he's going to be able to cover them with tough so he can try and give them some semblance of survivability.
Brother's Keeper.
Brother's Keeper, sorry. So tough, no knockdown. Jeez, Brian.
Yeah, that turn was rough. Brian feeded and basically deleted 61, no plus the scavenger, so 68 points of my army just died to his feet.
Yeah, and that's like one of the things that's rough with Krios that you don't quite expect with him is like being able to auto hit with all of these bonuses to do damage. They can really do quite a bit of work.
Yeah, because some of my stuff is def like 13-ish, so it's like you could miss a few attacks, but then just straight auto hitting, and then stacking up all your Weapon Masters a little bit higher, like just from your Vengeance attacks and Judgment.
Fire of Salvation.
Fire of Salvation, his 5 attacks. I netted you an extra 7 damage on my Prime Axiom that allowed you just to kill him without the Cinerators, because like I thought the Prime Axiom would probably die to everything over there, and I was like, okay, I'll have the Negators to go in and kill, but then you just 2-shot both my Negators because you're an auto-hitting Weapon Master on the charge.
Yep.
Like, I thought those would survive, so now I'm like, okay, this is where we're talking about the scenario and how I don't think I can pull back on scenario now that the bottom half has effectively been deleted. But
there's still so much down there.
Yep. Like, your heavy is still full health. I still got to deal with Blessing.
And Gravus is carting himself around with a full stack of souls.
Yep. So I'm like, I know Gatsby has to go into the top zone and try and clear stuff, but I know I have my ground pounder, so maybe I'm going to basically catch almost all the Knights. I'm going to get, 5 of them under it?
Yeah, there's 5 Knights Exemplar. One is the unit attachment that hasn't mini-feeded. And then there's the Venger is the beacon for that.
Yep. So here, Corollary is charging a Cinerator to get synergy up to induct over to the Assimilator.
Yep.
The charge attack, dice minus 11.
For what it's worth, I think this Exemplar has 2 boxes left.
Yep, it had 3 boxes. I charged, I did 1 point of damage. Now it's down to 2. Second attack, boosted damage, did no damage. Inducted over to the Assimilator. Assimilator, measuring where I have to walk up to ground pounder. Smack my ground pounder down there. Boosting to hit on the pony, the jack, or the pony, the UA, and the jack, just to make sure it hits at Rat 5. And
yeah, Rat 5's a little rough.
And then still doesn't break armor on the jack, which was bad. Kills the pony, and then forces tough on the UA, I want to say.
Yeah, I believe so too.
Yep. And now here, I need 7s to hit, because you're def 12.
Yep, def 12 on all these guys.
I hit 4 of the 5.
Yeah, one of them you missed, and then one of them toughed out of this, I think.
Yep. So there's 4 left alive. Now the Diffuser, which has full focus, is charging, because now Synergy's at 1, so now he's at POW 8. So charge attack hits. Synergy is now at 2, but it doesn't matter. Force is tough and kills on the charge, so now I was able to induct 1 back to the Corollary, but now it's just kind of sitting there with 2 focus on it. Locus goes, shoots the other one.
And I believe this one I shield guard off to the Blessing of Vengeance.
Yep.
Which I don't know if that was such a great idea or not, because he only did have the 1 box left.
It's worth it to keep your Weapon Master around.
Yeah.
And now, because now the only thing left over there that can kill it is my caster. Yep, because my plan was to shoot him, which I do. Boost damage. Or I boost the hit. Boost damage, you tough. And now I think I'm throwing a convection at you.
Yeah, you're digging deep, and I toughed that one.
Yep.
So I think the shot didn't kill me, but the convection got me, but I toughed out of that.
Yep. So, like, I'd hoped to magnetic hold the cavalry again, and which you didn't note last turn, he killed he castigated, or not castigated, chastened
yeah.
his own pony to get the buff off.
I did leave it on one box, though.
Yep, and that's the one I ground pounded and killed.
Yeah, that was a bummer.
So Gaspy goes in, the servitors are going, two of them miss their attacks with boosted 7s, so that was neat. Gaspy charge does okay, buys an attack, kills it, and then I buy an attack to kill the guy next to me to get his soul because the stupid servitor didn't get to kill, and I believe you toughed, so I had to buy another attack to kill him, so I'm only on 2 focus and 2 souls.
So I did lose quite a bit on that top zone, but I'm not too worried about it because I really do feel like I've got the bottom side of the table really under my control. Like, I don't think there's much that Ethan can do to really get out of this problem. So I have the Exemplar Cinerator go into the ADO in hopes to try and get that with the Vengeance attack, and I needed a 6 to hit you, but I only roll a 5, and I'm not close enough, or Sevi isn't close enough to catch me in the Eye of Menoth anymore. So that was unfortunate that I couldn't just get that for nothing, but it is what it is. It just means that I won't be able to charge off into the Frustum on the bottom side of the zone. So the Fire of Salvation, Righteous Vengeance up a little bit because he was within 5 inches of the Exemplar Cinerator that the Diffuser killed. So now I'm trying to figure out what to do with the bottom side of the top side of the zone because I was like, I want to get Gaspy because, like, he needs to go. He's one of the few things that Ethan has right now that I am legitimately scared of. And I think Ethan had thought he was in a good position to make sure that Krios with his stumpy speed 5 couldn't get to where he needed to. And I thought so too by looking at it, but then when I put the widget down to try and see if I was in range to do this, I realized that he can hug around the rock to get there and get reach because Krios does have a very long melee range, or he has a range 2, whatever. So Krios is going in. Sevi's in position to make sure that he's getting the Eye of Menoth going, so I'm sitting at mat 9 essentially. So I only need 5s to hit Gaspy, and now I'm doing some life trader math because that's one of the other cool things that Krios has is he can turn himself into a weapon master at the low cost of 1 health point. So I decide to go ahead and start smacking Gaspy at dice off 2s with my melee, and I life trader all of these. Because I really want to get him off the table. So
it takes 3 swings.
I was rolling ridiculously hot with that, and since I wasn't boosting the damage and doing life trader, it means that Krios gets to sit there with 5 focus after having pulled off the Wrack as well. So Krios is in a pretty decent position to make sure that I'm not going to get, like, super wiped out by any of the pieces that Ethan's got over here, but I do decide to unpack the Vengers into some of his stuff in order to try and chunk up some of his models from being able to get to me. So we do charge into the Jack, I think, in order to try and get some extra damage on it.
You rolled triple ones.
I rolled 3 1s, yep. So that was unfortunate, but I did get to kill Gaspy with not many focus, so I'm okay with that. So I think that Sevi comes up behind him, and I was thinking about trying to immolate the ADO out of combat, but then I think I might have rolled that back a little bit and decided to go do something else before deciding on what to do with Sub-Zero. So the Exemplar walks around to the back of the ADO because they do not have a melee weapon, as I found out.
Yep.
And he takes him out pretty easily, and I'm still within range to, like, I'm facing the Frustum Locus, so I'm there to contest that flag and be a pain in the butt. Next up, the Fire of Salvation goes up and just walks in to melee with these 2 jacks. I wanted to get the Corollary gone first, so I start punching there with Battle. And he's still under the effect of Eye of Menoth, so it doesn't take very much to get through that. I think it's just my initials. And then I'm getting the Diffuser beat up pretty bad with just the first bot attack, and then the second one ends up taking him off the table while I'm sitting with the 1 focus just hanging out. And At this point now, I'm trying to figure out where's Gravus going to go. Can he fit to make a charge through here to get onto Syntherion? I can't do that, so I go ahead and unpack Gravus into a more threatening position to make sure that he's able to get some work done next turn.
So I'm down to basically 3 models that have attacks.
Yeah.
Because I have two ADOs, I have the Locus, I have my caster, and I have an Assimilator. So, like, pretty much my only goal here, or plan, is to be able to assassinate a Krios camping 5 with a Synergy 1 Jack after Syntherion charges to try and clear a path. One of the stupid Knights Exemplar that survived is also in front of the Jack.
I think
you
it's
can't
like
see
the
it.
only one.
Yeah, you
It's like
can't
the
see it
last
behind the pony, but it's stuck there and it's blocking my charge path. Syntherion only has a half-inch melee, so he can't actually get the pony and the Knight Exemplar. So I'm trying to see like if I can run an ADO behind him, because ultimately I'd like to get Magnetic Hold on Krios to give him neg2 def. That way my poor Jack only needs 5s instead of Synergy 7s. And then I offer to take a free strike, but I forget his pony's only a half-inch, so they're not engaging that ADO, so it just runs to be in the way. And I realized halfway through the turn that, like, I can't Magnetic Hold because the Assimilator needs 3 full focus. So, like, I could cast it, but I can't boost, and I need to kill the stupid Knight Exemplar. So the Locus is in range to aim and shoot to try and maybe boost into melee. I need a boosted 8 aiming to hit the Knight because it's a 12 up to a 16. I'm a 6 aiming to an 8. But then I can't boost damage because I only have 1 token. I boost the hit. I roll a 6. So there's one of my 3 models that have attacks left. Did nothing. So now Syntherion has to charge. He punches the pony, actually hits, and then does not kill.
Yeah, he's left on a couple boxes here.
Yep, POW 14 into armor 18.
Yep, 18.
At dice -4, I did not roll a 9. I left him on 1 box, so I'm like, here, I can buy an attack, but if I do, I can't boost the convection into the Knight Exemplar because I'm not engaging him. He would be def 16, I'm only magic 6, so I would need a 10. So I can't actually get the Knight and get the pony, so I opt to just buy an attack into the pony. Hits. I'm left on 2 focus. I think I throw a convection into Krios. Or no, I go for the unboosted.
I think it was the Knight because you were fishing for the 10.
Yep. Does not, so I have to trample. Hits that guy. He's only strength 10. Forces a tough, which I believe you do tough,
yeah.
Which actually helps me because Krios heals a point whenever a warrior model dies in this command. So I buy an attack. Mat 7, I hit Weapon Master up to a POW 15 with Synergy. Does a few points, buy another attack, hits, and then doesn't kill, and then I basically concede.
Yeah, at this point in the game, there's so many ways that Syntherion can go down, and
you just auto win on scenario.
Yeah, and the scenario is the other one. So like right now it's 4-3. At the end of this turn, I'll go 5-3, and then it's very easy for me to pick up 3 points by getting my flag, taking Ethan's Frustum, and killing his objective. It's not a difficult task for me to do. So we pull the plug instead of getting to see if Gravus can get Syntherion off the table. But this was an interesting scenario, but I feel like when I first looked at split decisions, I think that's what it's called, right? Split decisions?
Yeah, split decision.
So the thing that I like about this is I love asymmetrical tables or scenarios, but this isn't really an asymmetrical table because if you split it down the half across the horizontal middle, right? It's a symmetrical scenario, right? It's the same for everyone. But what this does do is it kind of forces you to make sure you put certain things on one side versus the other. Like most all of my support solos were on the bottom side of the screen because I wanted to make sure I was able to get a lot of scoring options out there and have enough to be able to dig deep onto Ethan's side and get that objective and kill the things that were on the flag. I do think that this is the kind of scenario where you're really not going to win on it until you've actually really won the game in spirit. You know what I mean? Like, you have to wipe one side in order to start scoring it and get ahead on scenario, and then at that point you've basically just crushed the game anyways.
Yeah, at that point you have attrition to victory where your opponent can't come back, because like in a typical turn you'll score your flag, the circle might be contested, you might clear the circle and get lucky, but you're scoring 2 points. Like, this is a very, very slow scenario, and I really wish the objective and flag were switched, because like my prime axiom had to hug the bottom just to be near enough the objective, just to get magical weapons to maybe threaten his jacks and make you position otherwise. So like I had to hug it deep down to the bottom, so that means Syntherion had to be more towards the bottom, and when you're only a focus 6 caster, even with a corollary, it meant like my control area couldn't reach the whole board because I had to play so far down just to keep stuff in.
Yeah, and to kind of get back to that topic on the objectives, it feels like the 3 different things you can pick for the objectives feel really like there's
The
one
3 new ones.
Yeah, the 3 new
Newish,
ones.
because one of them's just the same, but it changed.
Yeah, so they're it's really tough for you to be able to get use of them on this particular scenario, because you have to, like you said, play so far wide from the center, and I feel like the objectives in general are going to get really weird when we start getting into events, if they're set up the way they are still when the packet goes live or whatever. Because at the beginning of this game, I just did the same thing I always do whenever I play Warmachine. I say, as almost like a reminder to my opponent that it's time to pick objectives, I say, oh, by the way, I'm taking concealment. And then you were like, well, now I know I could take the eyeless sight one, and the concealment doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's where it gets weird, because like I was debating taking the magic weapon or the eyeless sights, but like now that one objective basically negates the other, you almost have to either write it down, or you run into this scuzzy, skeezy situation where you told me, you're like, well, I'm taking concealment, and I was like, honestly, as a person, I was probably not going to take eyeless sight. Yeah. It was like a possibility, but not on this scenario, not on this board, not against your army. But now, like, because a lot of the objectives are very corner case.
They are.
Like 4 of the 5 are corner case. Let's just straight up. Like bunker, if you don't have pushes, you don't need it. Magical weapons, if you're not fighting in Corporeal or Menoth, you don't need it. Eyeless sight, if there's no clouds, or stealth, really, you don't need it. The shakeable effect one, if you're not running like battle engines or things that need shakeable effects like Archons, you don't need it. So really, like, the default objective is wreckage for concealment, just because you're like, I was debating taking concealment at first too, because you're like, well, I have no guns, but Krios has like a couple magic spells, so I'm like, well, my solo on the flag could get concealment, or my caster, because that's pretty much all it is for.
Exactly.
But then it's like, now, like, if you think your opponent's going to default concealment, because that's what it is, like, do you try and meta them and take the eyeless sight one, just so, like, your big shooty thing, like my prime axiom, could shoot potentially your caster better, because that's probably what's going to get concealment from the objective.
Yeah, it puts you in a weird position. So I hope that if there's one thing that gets taken away from the Steamroller 2021 packet, I hope that something changes with the objectives. Like, I do wish that Privateer Press would get a little bit more bold with some of the decisions they make on some of the scenarios, because like when I looked at King of the Hill, it definitely became a much more like attractive scenario, because they moved in the square boxes a bit, so now they're not, nut to butt on the edge of the table. But for the most part, a lot of what they did was very conservative in terms of shaking up the meta, and I think since we've had this Steamroller packet for the last 2 years, I would have really had hoped that they got a little bit more bold with their with shaking up the game, because I don't think that the new Steamroller packet really accomplished that.
And we'll have to see what final changes go in. Like, one of the changes proposed was to turn the eyeless sight objective into true sight, so you still ignore clouds, but you don't ignore concealment, so like you don't negate the other objective with the model, because like I believe one of those turns you're like, okay, Sevi0 gets concealment, and that's where I've been like, if my prime axiom had eyeless sight, like then I would just go for Sevi0.
Yep.
But I don't know. This scenario is just probably the most dead one because, like you said, like there's only 3 scoring elements really on your half.
There's no opportunities to score early and aggressively.
No, like if you're at most, if you can score the circle, score your flag, score their flag, and get their objective, you're getting 4 points. But to score the circle and score their flag and kill their objective, they pretty much have to be tabled or in a a very, very, very tiny brick just outside the circle zone. And that's just not likely until turn 5+ when you've almost tabled your opponent.
Yeah, it's a toughie. Like, this was probably one of the scenarios that when I looked at it at first, I was the most excited about, of course, because we played it first, right? But, having played it, and this is just my one time having actually played it, I'm not an expert or anything, but I can kind of see the way the rest of the games that I would play on this scenario would work out, and it just feels really like it is as soon as you start getting the advantage on this one, you've won because of what it means for your opponent's army. Like in this case where we saw that, not only did I swipe out a big old swath of your battle group on that bottom side of the zone, that's the thing that allows me to start scoring to get ahead of you. And even if those scoring elements were gone, there's really no way you could have recovered from that.
No, short of a Hail Mary on your caster.
Yeah. So overall, like talking about the list at least, I really, really enjoyed playing Kreoss too. Like he's very straightforward in how he plays. He's got some cool like defensive stuff that I didn't get to really like utilize a whole lot here between Castigate and Sacrosanct because you didn't have a whole lot of warrior models to get use out of it. Even though when Gaspy came in and started clipping off the jack and some infantry, that would have been not a bad time for it. But I think that it was a good time, fun to play. Like, is going to break the meta or anything? No, but it was definitely a blast of a list to get into.
No, Krios 2 still has, like, good tech. Like, his whole spell list, like, I'd forgotten what he did. We picked a matchup before, and I was, like, looking at his card, and I was like, I forgot he had Castigate. I forgot he had Chasten. And it's just like, So, like, you could have stopped me from arcing my spell out early, but you don't really need to because you can just chasten your own model and strip the upkeep off of it.
Yep.
And with them being so high armor, it's the chance of you boosting for damage and breaking armor and killing them is lower, but you still gotta break armor. But then, like you said, you have Sacrosanct, so like you could have put that up, and then it's like, well, I can never put Gaspy into infantry because then he will just die.
Yeah, it was. It's a fun time for sure. I think like one of the things that I mostly wanted to not showcase like I'm somehow influencing the community or anything, but I do think that Menoth kind of gets put in the box of like Faithful Masses is the only list that exists for the history of forever, and
it's just a good theme.
It's a good theme, and don't get me wrong, it's just not the only one. I think Exemplar Interdiction is still really fun, and unfortunately there are some releases that have come out over the last 6 months that probably make it not as fun as it could be, like looking at the Death Archon for one of those. But the list is still a blast to play.
Yeah, like it's like you said, it's got a very good. You as a Khador player has a very Wolves of Winter feel, where it's like I have a bunch of weapon masters. I don't need them all to get there. I just need to feat and literally delete anything that they get in melee range of.
Yep, feat and delete.
That's what it is.
Well, thanks for sticking. Oh, you want to talk about your list now?
After
sitting there doing nothing.
Yeah, I get to play this whole game and watch you table me, and I don't even get to talk about Syntherion.
This is the Brian show. Get off my table,
Go fuck
scrub.
yourself. I drive all the way here for nothing. I don't know, like Syntherion. Like I was talking in a group chat with him. Like I want to like him. He's a cool caster. He's got synergy. He should be a good caster. He's just meh.
I think the big thing that one of the things we talked about that I super duper agree with is that as a Convergence player, if you're playing the induction game properly, his feat, half of it's worthless.
Yeah, because like his new feat, if you don't know, models in his battle group activating in his control, so he doesn't get a free focus, get a free focus, and they get dual attack. His old feat used to be like weapons platform, which they switched to dual attack in the addition change, I believe, and they got to charge for free. So like a focus versus a free charge, it should be a wash, except for like on the top half of the table, when I was doing my induction change, induction chains
yeah.
with my corollary, all my jacks that were activating already had 3 focus. Like, I purposely didn't allocate an extra one from the corollary over just because I knew the feat was coming. But at that point, like, okay, now this jack has 3. It activates and ducks all its focus to the next jack. Like, I'm going to be full on focus if you run it right. And that feat turn, all of my jacks, besides the diffuser that only needed the 1 to boost a hit, had 3 focus. Regardless if I would have feated or not. Like, they just straight up had 3 focus.
The only thing I can see that part of the feat being utilized well for is if something goes wrong where, like, you had that diffuser that killed something and had focus left on it that couldn't go into the induction. So, like, it's not even that part of the feat it feels active. It more feels like an oh shit button where it's like, okay, I killed this thing before I expected to and now I can't induct, so at least this jack will get to activate and get focus on it to pass off. But I don't feel like that's feat worthy.
It's okay. Like, it is a good fallback. Or, like, I could have activated a model on the other side of the board if I didn't need all the focus over there. But to get enough work out of my jacks, they needed full focus just to do stuff. So I didn't mind waiting in the induction chain for them to get focus. But you could theoretically, like, you could play wider. Like, I could have a Negator on the bottom activate, which inducts the focus so I can charge. And then it inducts the next one so I can charge. Or then, like, if you charge too far out of induction range, but with ADOs it's 9 inches now, so like it could work and do help if your ADOs are dead, or if you're using that plus 6 inch threat like we talked about to have a Negator charge a casual 13 inches. Like, it's probably charging out of induction range even with a 9 inch induction. But like, it's still like, if you're doing your induction,
if you're playing well,
not even well, like, if you just have the induction chain well, not well, but
you're positioning
if
good.
you're positioned because you're used to playing Convergence, it gives you an option that you really don't need. And then the second half of the feat is dual attack, which I only used on one of my jacks. Like, I like dual attack on a Prime Axiom, but you can build for the feat. It's just, it gets weird. Like, my Assimilator, I didn't want to charge in with it because I wanted the ground pounder and boost all the shots where it was. But I could have charged in, punched, which would have been cute, but then it would probably just died. So, like, it can do some work, but most of my jacks I took, I wasn't really using for the feat. Like, the Prime Axiom was the one thing I kind of built the feat around. But then, like, I don't know, like, Syntherian's trying to do too much. Like, he's trying to be a melee caster with Synergy. He's trying to be a ranged caster with Hotshot. He's trying to be a spell caster with Magnetic Hold, which is an amazing upkeep. But, like, he's only focus 6, so he, like, has to boost a hit, so there's half his stack. He has Empower now, which is nice. But he's just in this weird limbo of, he was designed in Mark II, and he was a very good Mark II caster, but then he got hit with Reconstruction nerf and with Synergy nerf. So, like...
And when the Battle Box redesign happened, he wasn't included in that.
Yeah, he was not included. But he already went through a Sid. It's just the Sid...
The Sid got it wrong.
This PP had an idea for him, and they had an idea of what they wanted him to do.
I feel like my hottest of takes to make Syntherion infinitely better and not broken is that instead of having that stupid activate to get focus thing, he just says induction is infinite. It's not broken. It's one turn where you get to do whatever you want wherever you are, and you can do your things out of order is really what it comes down to. Because if you're going to you can't just spread out wherever and make this feel like it's, you know, the ridiculous Xerxes 2 feat where everything is in my control. Because you have to play the game and have to prepare for the rest of the game to make sure induction works after his feat. But being able to make something like that, like... For 100% sure, there was a point in there where you would have rather have activated your mitigators on the bottom first, but induction said no. And if you had that feat then, you would have been able to do what you wanted to and not feel like you're disrupting your game too much. Like, I do not feel like that's a broken thing or too much to ask to say Syntherion has a one-turn infinite induction range.
I'd say double induction range would be fine.
I would maybe I bid high just for you to go a little bit lower. So, like, I could go with that. I could say double range would be fine, and maybe the ADO stacks with that. So like, I just think that would have made Syntherion a little bit more attractive as a warcaster in Convergence, because right now he just isn't really like putting up the numbers for me.
It's just like he's in this weird limbo. He wants to do everything, but he doesn't. Like, he's a synergy caster. It should be well, but really, like, most synergy casters aren't really taken right now outside Omo. It's just like I took 4 lights. It takes 3 activations just to get to 3 synergy for the 4th one, and they all have to be in his control, so it just promotes a play style of either spamming a bunch of good lights, so I could spam negators. Like, I could have had, instead of a prime axiom, I could have 6 more negators.
Yeah.
And that'd be pretty sweet.
It would have been a lot harder for me to deal with, that's for sure.
But it's just like a weird play style, but then he still has Hot Shot because it's a good spell, but he's only Rat 5, and his stats were designed in Mark II back before they gave Convergence trivial Rat 7 Orion.
Yeah.
Or trivial Mat 9 Lock. Like,
it's the problem with designing a caster that does 2 things or tries to do everything, is that you will always have to compare them to the caster that does the one thing you want. Like, when I want a melee caster, am I going to go for someone like Lucant, or am I going to go for someone like Axis maybe? Or when you want shooting in Convergence, do you want someone who randomly can do it sometimes but then fight still, or would you rather just have Orion who's going to do it better all the time?
Yep. And that's where he's in this weird spot of like he has the tools to be good. He's just not that great. Like, he's a fun caster. It's just he can't really do everything he wants, and he doesn't do them all well.
Yeah, it's not that he's not like the bottom of the barrel caster that you'll see no one want to take ever for the history of Mark III, but like,
he's just well-rounded when there's better specialists in Convergence.
And that kind of playstyle like is something that Convergence players can utilize better, because when you're leaning into that one specific zone of combat, right, whether it's ranged or melee, being able to do as much of that as you want to with someone who's more efficient at it is better than trying to split the difference with someone like Syntherion.
Mm-hmm. And like, you could take the Jax that have a ranged weapon and a melee weapon, but then
you get into the Menoth problem, where it's like, if I charge something, I won't have as many attacks, and if I shoot something, I won't be able to do anything with my good melee attack.
But you have dual attack for the feat turn, so like, you could run ciphers, you could run like more assimilators. It's just like, if I wanted shooting, I'd run Orion or even Mom, but like Orion, that's a different discussion. I'd just rather run Orion. If I wanted to run melee, I'd run Mat 7 Access with countercharging battle group or Lock.
Plus a
Mat 9.
plus 2 speed and plus 2 strength feat turn for Axis. Like, that is basically synergy for a turn, and that's usually all you need it for.
Yep. And then basically Lock's feat can replicate synergy damage with her feat tokens. Or no, hers are Deafen Arm. She gets red line, so she can, and +4 Mat.
Red line and Engine of Destruction.
Yeah.
So Mat and strength. But
basically, she gets her Jax up to the same Mat Syntherion does after 3 battle group models that punched an enemy model in his control.
Yeah, he has to, like, Syntherion has to do the work in pre-planning for it, and Locke just has to pay 2 focus.
Yep, 2 focus, and then has Jackhammer. But I don't know, one of the discussions we had in a different group for Syntherion is like, what if synergy wasn't capped at 3? Because it got nerfed in the transition pretty heavily, deservedly. Synergy deserved to be nerfed.
It deserved to be nerfed in the time frame that it did, because Wold Guardians were ridiculous.
Because power attack pushes were ridiculous, and you could get a +9 synergy train without making a single attack roll, which I have done.
Yeah,
it's dumb. It was dumb,
and it was never for attritional advantage that synergy gets used for. Now it was literally to kill a caster with very minimal effort.
Yes. It was literally, I get to your caster and I shake your hand because we don't need to roll my Mat 15.
Exactly. Double ones or I win.
Yep. But, like, what if synergy was capped at +5/+5? But, so, like, that might help synergy casters out, but then, like, now you're running into Negator spam problems, or the redheaded stepchild that ruined synergy so it can never get a buff, Omo. Like, Omo Deimos is going to make it so synergy never gets buffed.
Yeah, it's a tough thing. I feel, and I know I'm gonna hate saying this because it's just gonna like spark more discussion, but like, field allowance is a thing that should have been projected to every single model in the game. There should be no FAUs. especially on like warjacks and warbeasts.
Yeah, that's a whole other discussion. Like, if you want this first video back to be like 2 hours, we can just keep rambling about everything we think about.
No, we should probably go get that other game going. But
I don't wanna.
We'll cut it off now. Thanks for sticking with us for the long period of nothing and on the Warmachine front. I know that it's sometimes it's just tough. Like the summer's hit and I've decided to move. So
you're too busy for me to come over and play games.
Too busy making sure that I don't have to pay another month's worth of rent before I go into my house. So thankfully, I'm not moving anywhere that takes me away from Ethan. I actually am moving closer to him by like 20 minutes. So there's that at least.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't mean that the channel's going anywhere. We're still enjoying playing Warmachine a lot, and especially when I get to do things like yeet a prime axiom off the table with minimal effort.
Just feat and delete. Like, that's Krios 2 style. I will say, one last ramble, like, I got to play Krios 2 in a Mark II Who's the Boss, and like I rolled him up in circle, and I was like, this is the funnest thing ever. Yeah. So like that was my one good enjoyment of Krios 2, and now you've destroyed that for me. I hate him again.
Yeah, it's a roller coaster.
You literally went. You took that happy memory I had of a caster, and you just deleted it.
You'll have images flashing in your head of the prime axiom just like getting kicked into the void.
I thought Krios 1 was the Krios I hated the most. Turns out it's Krios 2.
Don't worry, we'll play some Warriors of the Old Faith soon and change your opinion there too.
Oh, God. I don't need it.